Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is 9 a.m. This is May 1st. Happy May Day, by the way. Spring is finally here. I believe we went right from winter to summer yesterday. She was a little bit hot. We will begin the meeting. This is the weekly meeting of the Cudahy County Commission, and we'll open with the Pledge of Allegiance. And let's see, so do you want to lead us today?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Cindy. A couple of housekeeping things here. If you do have a cell phone, please shut it off or silence it. If you do get a call that you need to take, please step out into the rotunda area, as you may disrupt someone that's wishing to speak at that particular time. Also, this meeting, as all of them, are streamed live. So if you wish to address the board, you will be streamed live, just to give you a heads up, and you may want to check your hair, make sure it looks good. So that's what we need to get done. With that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
Second.
So I have a motion by Hatton and a second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. The minutes of the April 24th meeting, motion by Hatton to approve, second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any comments? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 3 on the agenda is first reading of ordinance number 68, amending Article 2, definitions, and Chapter 5-22, wind energy system. I will tell you at this time that this is the first reading, and Luke will help us or share with us. This is not open for public input. We will not take any public testimony during the first reading, as law indicates. All right, Luke, share with us.
Sure. To follow on that, first reading, we just read it in title only. At second reading is when we've got a published public hearing based on the court case that we had there. We can't take any testimony at a unpublished, at a meeting where we didn't publish a notice for public testimony. So the first reading of this ordinance is Ordinance 68, an ordinance amending Article 2, definitions, and Chapter 522, wind energy systems, of Article 5, general provisions, of Ordinance 65, which is an ordinance amending Ordinance 15, an ordinance establishing comprehensive zoning regulations for Cudahy County, South Dakota, as amended. Our second reading and public hearing is scheduled for next week at 9:30 in the morning, and so far plan to be in this room. Is that right?
That's right.
All right.
Correct.
That's all I got there.
All right. Excellent.
Can we do that vacation, or do you want we can wait?
We can do that.
That is on the agenda.
Yeah,
I'll be around.
Okay, there's just one item.
it won't be very long.
Yep.
Okay, you've heard that. See, I guess I will entertain a motion to accept the first reading.
No, we don't need to do that.
We don't need to do that.
No, we held the first reading.
All right, so we held the first reading, and it's a done deal. And as Luke indicated, a week from today will be the public hearing, and that's when people wish to speak pro or con in the ordinance, that they could have the opportunity at that time. Number 5 on the agenda then is action on a request for a moratorium on wind energy systems. And that individual here? Okay. I think what I would like to do is give you a little bit of information that we have to live by here before you approach us. And this is from the state's attorney. And I hope that you notice that we handle these things very, very carefully, because if we leave if we don't dot our i's and cross our t's, they'll come back to bite us. And so everything we do is going to be by ordinance or by law. At this particular time, we cannot adopt a moratorium today because action would require a public notice to be published in the paper at least 10 days before the meeting due to state law on emergency zoning rules. That's item number 1. Item number 2 is we cannot have any discussion related to ordinance number 68 that includes commentary on specific regulations or even general topics that should be regulated by a wind energy ordinance, because it could be perceived as taking testimony on the ordinance outside of a noticed public hearing, which was ruled in our last circuit court decision to be illegal. Number 3, board cannot listen to the request to adopt a moratorium, but will have to rule any discussion about potential rules or pitfalls of any potential rules out of order. If the board were interested in adopting a moratorium due to notice requirements, it can't happen until after the public hearing on Ordinance 68. So I just want to give you a heads up so you know what you're dealing with and what we're dealing with here. So if you have something to say at this point in time, please step forward and share with us, but we will not have any give and go communication at this time with you, okay? You understand?
I think so. I can't request the moratorium, but I can give you the reasons why I believe one should be.
Luke, clarify that. Can you?
More about can certainly request a moratorium, and the main thing is a dialogue about anything that's in Ordinance 68 would be something that we're going to rule out of order, is what it amounts to. That's the summary of it, is that it's, we can certainly discuss or request a moratorium, but any dialogue about language would be in Ordinance 68 would be something that would have to be rolled out of order, because again, that's where we have to have that on the public hearing. So.
And by the way, Luke is our parliamentarian today. I've just duly appointed him as our parliamentarian. He has a good background in parliamentary procedure, and again, like I noted before, we have to do these things simply because you, as in the past, note that we didn't follow everything verbatim, and it always comes back to bite us. So that's why we're very, very careful how we proceed. That being said, do you wish to speak to us or forego?
Can I speak to someone first? Because you got to speak to your parliamentarian. Can I just confer with someone who has more experience on this than me?
Emma, you took everything out here before. You took everything out. There's no Ordinance 68 language in there.
Okay. So I am going to read my...
Okay. This isn't how long are we talking about here? Are you going to be here for a half hour?
No, it's...
Well, I see it's a pretty thick thing.
it's this
Yeah,
and this.
that's pretty lengthy, so better cut it short. Better hurry up and start reading, and we don't need copies of that.
You don't?
No, we prefer not to have copies handed out, okay?
Amber, just grab the mic there if you would,
Okay.
please, and talk into the mic.
Okay, well, Amber Christensen, and I haven't read in front of the class for many years, but some of this is got citing on it where you can refer to things, so I guess if you're not getting a copy, you're not going to see that. My request was for a moratorium, and for these reasons. Whereas Cottington County Zoning Ordinance 65, dated 3/27/17, is adopted to protect and promote the public health, safety, peace, comfort, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare. You just prefer that I summarize this?
Please.
Chairman? Okay. Where turbines are where people live, work, and enjoy recreation, that would disturb peace and safety. Ordinance 65 does not adequately address flicker, vibroacoustic issues, infrasound, stray voltage, property value, property rights, danger of blade failure, and effects on humans and livestock health. The purpose of the agricultural land district is to preserve open space and maintain and promote farming and related activities, generally free of other land use activities. That's section 3.03.01. Supply of healthy livestock and poultry, other animals is essential to the well-being of county citizens in the state of South Dakota. Turbines can create local climate changes in the hydrology. The size of turbines proposed would create, oh, I probably can't, oh yeah, I can, right? Yeah, because that's already been approved. 193.4 acre industrial zone that has limited and decreased agricultural use. Does not address non-participating landowners' safety, liability, property rights, limited uses, and devaluation of home and farmland because of larger required safety zones. Ordinance 65 fails to protect the county aquifers, lakes, rivers, and streams and changing hydrology patterns in the county as a result of turbines. Ordinance 65 also fails to address protecting roads through haul road agreements during the maintenance and decommissioning of wind turbines, transmission lines, and matters relating to wind energy systems in the lifetime of the project. Ordinance 65 fails to identify a complaint resolution system in its mitigation measures. And the citizens of Cottington County promote a legacy of family, productive farmland, wildlife, outdoor recreation, clean air, water, and ecology to leave for future generations. And that's why I think it is important for us to entertain a moratorium.
Okay, thank you, Amber. I
Reader's
would
Digest.
just clarify why I didn't allow you to hand them out. Typically, the board members need information that's going to be presented to them with some lead time. And this would not give them any time to review the information, so that's why. So I needed to explain that to you, okay?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Amber.
Thanks, Amber. Thank you.
All right, let's go on then. The next item on the agenda, number 6, is the action to vacate a public right-of-way in Kapeska Township, which we last week talked about in the city of Vera, which we had to search the scriptures to find out what that was. Luke, you want to take it? We need to give us a little history, a little background of this situation.
Sure. We held public hearing on this vacation of right-of-way at the last meeting. I really won't dive into it any more than we did last time, other than just to state where this is. This is Vera, was the original plat of what became the town of Kapeska Village. The right-of-way that we're talking about vacating is called Amos Street on the original plat. It is a unimproved right-of-way that really hasn't been used for going on half a century. One property owner would like to have that property vacated to allow him some extra room to build a shed, which is within bounds. We asked the township if they wanted to take up the issue or if they had any problems with it. Township said they have no problems with it, but they would rather the county take it up. That's why it's in front of you. Again, it's not a road that's on the county's system, but yet it's something that they do have the ability to vacate. And again, the county's policy is ask township first. If the township wants to handle it, they can. Otherwise, if they have an objection, to forward it on. If they support it, to say that they supported it. So that's where we're at. Just need motion and action.
All right, you heard the, we have a motion by Lee Gable, second by Commissioner Waterman. Any discussion? Any discussion? And when you read the minutes, if it does show up as in the city of Vera, Vera is actually the original name of Compesca Village, correct?
Yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say there's already a Compesca at the time.
Yeah.
Luke, who files any paperwork?
It'll wind up being the, I'll be working with the petitioners on this.
Okay,
We'll
all right.
have and I'll, for reference sake, I gotta go back in my files to see, because I don't recall if the petitioner still had a copy of the resolution, or if, but I'll go back in the files and double check where all that is. But I've got the petition and all that, so.
Okay.
All right, good discussion. Any others? Anything else? Any more discussion? Any more? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you, Luke. Appreciate that. Let's go to monthly reports. Jody, Extension. What's happening out there?
Okay. 4-H just wrapped up their archery, BB gun, and air pistol. With allowing us, we have a new volunteer this year that came forward and got trained in air pistol, and so we were able to open it up to some kids to learn about air pistol. And one of them went on to state shoot this last weekend. We couldn't do our program without our volunteers, Kevin, Sam, Scott, Matt, and Skip, and Skip's will be her 52nd year of helping with archery this year. So
5-2, right?
5-2.
52nd.
Yep.
Long time.
And along with our parents that help us too. The state shoot was this last weekend out in Pierre. So last night we finished up our Strengthening Families program that was held for their parents and youth, and we ended up having 4 families graduate from the program. It was a nice time for that. At this time, I'm going to Waverly for Waverly South Shore School for Agro Readers, and that's a nutrition program for K through 3 on Mondays, and then on Wednesdays I'm going out there for I Respect, and that's a cyberbullying program for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that I've been working with them on that. Yesterday we started our the Optimist Club, Watertown Police Department, and the Extension Office. We're doing bike safety at the schools in Watertown, and so we started at the intermediate school yesterday, and we'll be doing that for the next 2 weeks after school. I do have flyers out to all the schools in Cottington County for Farm Safety Camp that will be held June 7th, and for your babysitting clinic that will be held in June. So those are out to livestock onto 4-H Online, which will be a new thing, but we've been putting out a lot of information on it too. So,
Do you have any results from the shooting sports?
I don't have all the results yet. I'm still waiting
Sure.
on some BB gun and air pistol because they don't automatically upload to the program. So.
All right.
Quick question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Lee.
Who did you say conducts the family program, the Healthy Family Program?
The Strengthening Families?
Yeah,
Strengthening Families, myself, Joe Jetland, who is at the middle
yeah,
school,
okay.
and then Stephanie Conander from the Human Service Agency. The 3 of us took the training in January again. We've been doing this program for 8 to 10, is this our 10th year maybe? But Stephanie just came on this year, so, and Iowa State re-updated the curriculum, so we had to retrain for that, so.
Okay, thank you.
It's a 7-week program with snowstorms. It ended up being 10 weeks by the time we got them all done, so.
Okay, thank you.
And track meets. Any other questions for Jody? Anything else? Thank you, Jody.
Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate your work. Veteran Service, Al is transporting a veteran to the hospital or the clinic in Sioux Falls today, so he couldn't be here, but you do have in your packet a handout, the monthly report. It says, I apologize for not being here to attend the meeting. I'm driving the DAV van to Sioux Falls to transport a veteran. We had 4 trips to Sioux Falls with 9 riders. We had 96 appointments, walk-ins for the month. The last paragraph is probably the most important one. It says we are pretty much settled in our new office across the street in the city auditorium. I am not happy with the handicapped access that we have here. It is an accident waiting to happen, though you should be aware, thought you should be aware of that, and I have gotten a couple of calls in reference to that. Have any of you ridden that, been over there? And Sarah, you've been up there, huh? And what do you think? It's an accident looking to happen?
My concern was the time. We had, I happened to be at the vending machine when two disabled people came in, husband and wife for the veterans. They both had to use the bathrooms. It took 30 minutes, I mean, to get them down and up, and I mean, I don't know, my bladder, I was concerned, you know, that the time was my concern. Last week, you know, usually we're helping them, the veterans office out because they're already with somebody. The last individual we helped, when you get onto the lift itself, you have to be able to push the button, and she was barely able to. So I mean, she had to push it and then start and stop, and you know, she didn't feel comfortable with me getting on behind her. So those are things without, you know, that's just the experiences that we have. So the time is a concern. Definitely would like to see doors with the push button, because if they can't get in, you know, you pull those doors open. I don't know, you know, like the one couple, it was both couples in the lockers. So, I mean, maybe that's an odd situation. I'm not so concerned about my clientele, but maybe the veterans, I would agree that I'd have to.
It's not that it's not there, and it's not that it's not working. It's just that it's difficult to operate. Is that the best scenario that we could?
Yeah, I would say you would have to allow for some time, definitely. And
So then what we should do is put up a sign, if you have to use the bathroom, plan ahead.
Which is,
Yeah. And have you, Waterman?
I have ridden that on a couple of occasions just to give it a test
Sure.
whirl, and it was not designed by NASCAR.
I know. Yeah. Any comment on that, Lee?
Is that I'm sorry, Lee, is that a city-owned?
Yeah, that's
City-owned,
So we'll talk to them about that.
Yeah.
We'll have to visit with them and see if we can get that corrected.
I'd already said I will put in a call to Jay DeLang and see what we can do.
Say that again?
I'll put in a call to Jay DeLang. He's the head of the Park and Rec.
Yep.
So
Okay.
Just Mr. Chair, maybe for everybody's information, we're renting those two offices over there from the City Park and Rec in the auditorium, so that's.
That is a city-owned property.
Yep.
Yeah. And we really appreciate the cooperation with them too, because they've given us a good rental rate on that office space over there, and we appreciate that. And it's just too bad, but that's what we deal with in the public sector is the handicapped accessibility.
One time we did. Let's see. I have a few things that is this on? Okay. That might apply to you. You do highway? Are you highway liaison, Charlie?
Yes.
Okay. And if I forgot, it's not that I forgot you, I just have some information that might be applicable to your areas. So that's just for you guys to have for your own, from the convention in NACO. So.
Hold on 1 second, Sarah. Let me see if I can get. They went back to the
Okay.
Google.
While he's doing it, does anybody want a hard copy of the welfare report?
I got
We
you.
got it
I
online.
got it on my, but I'll just take one.
Okay.
Try projecting.
I know, sometimes it's what your preference is, right?
Go ahead.
Go ahead and try it?
Yeah, try and project it and see if it picks it up, because it's kind of being
Or
ornery.
do you want me to close out and then try again?
No, just try, go ahead and put that.
It shows
Nice
here.
pretty picture they put up there for us.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Okay.
Got it? Okay. Last month when I put it all on one page, it didn't.
Why does it keep doing it? It keeps going back. I apologize.
Should I just get out and try again?
No, it's not, I don't think it's you. I think it's the TV being ornery.
You know bad luck follows me, right? I'm notorious.
Maybe that'll... It should sense the presence of the...
Let's just
Just go without? Okay. So
I'll try that.
within the report, your biggest savings in March is for medical, and the one significant one was we had one that had multiple claims, and we were able to get that person actually get some retroactive Medicaid. So that's where you see that significant savings. The other ones were smaller amount of savings, but that was pretty significant for that. And it's one of those reasons we say to work those cases. It's not something the hospital or anybody else would have done. Your next then just shows the people served. 12 medical, housing was 9. Those are still the highest areas. A little bit more in the transportation area. We did have one homeless client in month of March. And then next year, just looking at we're just tracking the different referral services, or the time spent. The economic assistance is a little bit larger because we're starting where we're doing some more preventative case management, so working with with the individuals, but also in that have discovered there's a few more in-depth things that we need to learn, so I had to do a little bit more investigation on that. But that medical is up there in the housing piece too. The referral to the agencies, our biggest are DSS, whether we do sort out the energy assistance specifically because that's through the state, not the local office. ICAP and then Salvation Armies are the biggest referral resources that we utilize. There is not the prescription card program isn't anything new. They're a little bit, we've got some lag time on receiving that, so that's why we kind of changed that report. We're not going to get it as we do our report, but that just gives you a breakdown. Last report we had, there was 27 utilizers in February, which is cost savings of $1,700 to the county. The next thing, I'm going to hand this out to you, is with NAMI. We are working with NAMI, or NAMI is working with us, I should say. They have a grant with the SAMHSA Wellness Initiative. I'll get you. And they've done this in Aberdeen and Pennington County, really trying to develop the NAMI piece of it. Yeah, that doesn't.
That's about the best I can do.
Yeah, this is a different than it kind of has this. So, within the SAMHSA's Wellness Initiative, there's 8 dimensions of wellness, and so part of what they're trying to expand the NAMI support group is not just focusing on how was your week or this or that, but also focusing on the intellectual, emotional, spiritual, occupational. And what does that look like? So one of the things they've got now is being ready to start where they're going to meet once a month at the Gather. So more of a public place, maybe more inviting, and do things like art journaling. And a lot of that, sometimes a lot of what you're doing is helping to ground that individual too, but also creating that community. So art journaling, I'm not an artistic person, so it'd work for me, but for example, was given to me is sometimes a person might take a book and just black out everything they don't want and just have what they want read, and it's a creativity part. They get to tap into that creativity, but the biggest thing about that is it's grounding. It's shelving that mental illness for a little bit, but it's also creating community and fellowship. So we're really encouraging we want to expand that to have all levels of individuals there, people that are recovered, people that are doing well with the mental illness, both, just a combination of all sorts of people, because I think we all know somebody that has a mental illness.
Sarah, could I interrupt? There's probably a lot of people here that don't understand what you're talking about. Maybe you should identify what NAMI is, and that we do have an organization in town. Please do that, will you?
Yes, and I feel bad because it would be on the screen, but that piece not working. NAMI stands for National Alliance of Mental Illness, and they are going to have this September their fall conference here, and they're focusing right now on building the peer support group in Watertown, South Dakota. What we do know is peer supports are the best. People listen better to their peers, people that have lived experience. And so we're really working on developing that. They'll be coming up about every 2 weeks. I might be sending a few emails. I have a couple people I want to reach out to, just pick your brain a little bit and maybe provide some help. But just kind of changing a little bit of the format, building that peer support. And that will then, September will be, they'll have their fall convention here. I'll get you the dates. I do encourage all commissioners to attend. It is fantastic if you ever, a lot of wealth, a lot of learning, even in just everyday life. You know, they might do some cooking. They'll set up some different skills while you're having your meeting and hoping that'll increase attendance. It has worked very well in Aberdeen. And also it will be something that will help with the Stepping Up initiative to build those peer supports. Peer supports are huge in success.
Mr. Chairman, so that like as a diversion, like a divert to what kind of part of the thing?
Right, yeah. Your peers tend to listen better to peers. I could encourage somebody to take their medications, but they're not going to listen to me as well as somebody that actually has had experiences with that medications.
So you're talking about they are going to be at the Gather, like how often throughout the summer?
Right now, it's starting once a month. I don't have the dates. They just were here last week. John, working with John and Wendy. John will be up next week, and then I'll have a little bit more detail. They do meet twice a month now, Monday nights at IC in the evening. But to start off, that might be one of them, and then maybe another alternative spot. Maybe something cooking seems to be a good thing.
I thought you meant to gather the coffee house. You just meant gather together. So how do they gather? It is, okay. How are they going to get the word out for the people that might be interested?
It's a good question. I'm going to ask them how they're doing it. I know they're partnering with HSA, and so that's going to encompass the big people, flyers, and that's what we're talking. And we're going to, next week when John comes up, we're going to meet with some different agencies to get the word out for them as well. So, but if you have additional ideas, please send them my way, because that's what's going to be important to get that out. So, and that kind of actually leads that's the wellness. Well, we all need that to be well. We need to cover all those areas to be well. And that leads us into, this was from NACO too. It's a good intro into the poverty initiative that NACO has, and that builds on the efforts of NACO's efforts of addressing like the crisis of incarceration with people who suffer from a mental illness. And what they're recognizing is we can't just focus on one entity. We need to focus on a two-generational approach, and that poverty is part of the problem. And so they call it the 2-gen, which is parent and children, and that just is a summary of the different the disparities that people have with poverty and access to employment, healthcare, education, and housing. There's we had panelists of about 4 or 5 different people that talked about the different 2-gen key components. You need to have dignity and love, and what that is, that has to be developed internally, right? And you're like, how can we do that? We'll go over that. Equity is everyone is equal. Resiliency, how can you make it in life and overcome? Anybody that's been successful has these 3 key components. Once a person feels they can do this, they can choose to control their future. It's important to look at the outcomes. Are people achieving their goal? And it's important to have collaboration. One agency might work with children, one might work with adult, might work with elderly. That's where that collaboration piece comes in. So what do we mean, like the dignity is, how do you get people to believe they can do this? And believe it or not, this can be measured in science, so that's not a non-tangible thing. I'm not going to go into the details of all that. But some of the items of this is a mentoring system, a social network that brings those traits with them. We've got mentoring programs here in Cottington County, do pretty well. We have different within the schools and different other programs. Family resource facilitator, someone that helps the family and ways to live. And we do have a little bit of that there. We just have a different name for it. This one I thought, especially Myron might appreciate, anybody in 4-H. One of the biggest programs that a lot of them utilize is the 4-H Junior Livestock Program. It helps teach you respect through animals. You raise the animals you sell, so you learn that life cycle, and you have to care for them. So that's been a very successful program for a lot of people to help apply that. So 4-H has a purpose. Equity. You have to have equity. You have to have that competency. Am I capable? Autonomy.
not always being dependent on somebody else, but being, on yourself to someone. If someone that's always dependent on somebody else doesn't have their own autonomy, you've got to have your own autonomy. Belonging, you have to feel like you belong to the community. If you're not separated by the social or economic status. If you feel wrong about your race, religion, or color, that piece just isn't going to be there. Resiliency, that piece is I can achieve something, overcome. It addresses those psychological needs. What do you do when you're down? And that's that I can and have the ability and I can recover. Those are that piece. And one tool, and done the training that is very good with this, it's very helpful, is motivational interviewing. And with motivational interviewing, it's what's motivating that person. If you want client engagement, you've got to meet them where they're at. It just is. They've got to get that buy-in. What do they want? Identify their aspirations. We all have aspirations. What is theirs? And it might be different. So never force what you think that person wants on, but what do they want? Let them develop the plan. Help them make it happen. The reason it's important to meet that person where they're at is because you also will get to build trust. And as you build trust, they might be more willing then to go to that next step. Maybe that's uncomfortable. And the final thing, and this is definitely, especially when we're dealing with some of the mental illness and the people in jail, trauma. I would really like to see in Cottington County that we increase some trauma-informed care. I think right now we only have one counselor in Watertown that is actually trauma-informed trained, and that's something that will be very impactful as we work with this. Almost everybody that has a mental illness or has been in jail or has poverty struggles has had some sort of trauma.
It's a big deal.
Significant. So, any questions on that?
Just can you email out your slides?
Yes, I will email out the slides. And the other thing I just have is just a handout. I had mentioned, and I'm not going to go over it, I had mentioned that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services had selected, I was one of the 22 representatives selected to be on that committee. All this is the agenda and the different things that we covered. And they're still working on that, and this is helping frame some legislation. We were able to, actually we had a questionnaire that we had to submit and stuff with different things you'd like to see, and they're writing federal legislations based, not just us, but others, but using the 22 representatives there. So that's just some more detail of kind of what that represented, and that was at the NACO conference, and just gives you more information. I've only highlighted or touched about it before.
And you're sitting on that panel?
Yes.
Okay, any questions for Sarah?
Very good.
I've got a couple of questions that don't directly pertain to this, but number one, I got an email from you here a while back, and is my term up on catastrophic poor relief fund? Or is it just rotating? I've been on it forever, and I just was wondering if I keep getting the stuff to sign from the Catastrophic Poor Relief Fund initiative, but
I anticipate, I know they have a hard time looking at that. I'm not on that committee anymore, but my guess is they'll keep you as long as you're willing to be on there. So if you're wanting to...
I'm still on it because I'm still getting the material.
I think the only way off of that is per request. That reminds me, we do have our first conference call about the 2813 tomorrow, so that reminds me of that. Thank you.
It's kind of like the township board, you either have to die or move, right? That's the same deal. Okay.
Once you learn it, we don't want to replace. So.
That's fine. That's fine. And I'll continue to do that. And that's the Catastrophic Poor Relief Fund, and I think there's 5 of us statewide that are on that board, and I guess we do the final okay of any requests or whatever that happens to be. And Sarah, will you stay here for the Feeding South Dakota presentation?
I will, and I do have some slides if you want with that information at that time too. So I'll just leave this up here. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anyone else have anything for Sarah?
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman. Just on the HHS committee, or that's a NACO committee, right?
No.
Or that's the...
It's through NACO. They selected certain people with under the Health Steering Committee. Their Health Steering Committee is a lot larger than that, but it is a federal government program that they have initiative.
So that's something to highlight. I mean, that's a big deal that our Cottington County Welfare Director is on that committee.
There's only 22 members that sit on that,
big deal.
That committee.
That's nationwide.
Yeah. So just so people understand that. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, let's go on then. Item number 8 is action to approve a resolution supporting Wildfire Awareness Month. In your packet, you do have a handout that references that. Has everyone had a chance to review that? When we're speaking of
I'll make a
wildfires.
motion
And
to approve the resolution.
we have a motion by Hatton to
Second.
approve, second by Van Duzen. Any discussion? I know it seems as we've been snowed and it's been raining and so on that you wouldn't think about wildfires, but they do exist. And I think the eastern South Dakota is in the very low range of danger right now. Western South Dakota is at a higher. But yet, we did have a couple of our people that work very closely or have worked very closely with the county were involved in an accident in a dirt storm west of Miller this week. Of all things, you know, and so we're having dirt storms and so fires are possible. There's a lot of that dead top growth there that can cause fires.
We have had several in our county. The CRP land
Yes.
that has started, it was wet underneath, but the grass on top is very dry. So
And it really makes it difficult because it's so wet that they can't drive implements out there to help put the fire out. That makes it difficult. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion?
Aye.
Any more discussion? You got an early date, Harley, or what?
I got an early A in there, yes.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Harley. Number 9, then, action to approve the 2018 Consolidated Board of Equalization minutes. Again, in your packet, these are available for you to review or were to review.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Hatton to approve
I'll second that.
and a second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? I would say that it went very smoothly this year. We had very, very few appeals this year. We had one entity appeal, I think 3 different properties, and I think that was handled very astutely. So I appreciate everyone's help in doing that. It went well. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Let's go on to number 10.
Go get Milo.
Okay, action to request to allow construction of a concrete patio windbreak at Memorial Park. And there is a letter from Gerald Riber in there in your packet for reference. And for many, many years, in fact, I have known how many years the church, Lutheran Church of Our Redeemer has held a Sunday service out at Memorial Park, and we've allowed them to do that for years and years. It gets a little breezy out there some Sunday mornings, and you would think that they would have a direct contract with the Lord, but he doesn't seem to pay attention to that. He lets the wind blow. And I think they would like to set up just a windbreak on the west side of the one building there where they can at least read the scripture without it blowing away. Is that right, Milo?
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, go, take it from there.
Okay, this was a request that actually had come up last fall. They wanted to put in a little, a concrete area and a windbreak there, and there was some question on liability and that kind of stuff. And I believe I sent the answers to all those questions to you in an email, that, the church would build, put the windbreak up according to code, so I mean the chances of it falling over would be minimal, I would feel. And they would, at that point, they do have insurance policy that covers their, them having services on site, but they would transfer the liability for that construction, for that wall over to us. And I think that would be a safe thing to do for us.
Reading that email, it sounds like they would actually build it and then donate that to the county?
Correct.
So the county would take over ownership of that windbreak then?
Yes.
Okay, so you've heard the the explanation of this. Is there a motion to proceed?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Gable,
Second.
second by Hatton. Any more discussion?
Just one quick question. So with that, just to continue Commissioner Van Duzen's thought, so we'd be responsible to maintain it from here on out once they
Yes.
build it, so, okay.
I did have during the week an opportunity to visit with Mr. Reiber, and he's very grateful for our cooperation with allowing them to do that, and they look forward to getting that thing built so they can get out of the wind a little bit. Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Number 11 is you, Milo, as well.
Okay, is that
Action
for
to
the-
approve a
Building
project.
number 3.
What?
Sorry.
Action to approve a project to re-roof building number 3 at Memorial Park. Let's identify building number 3.
Okay, building number 3 is behind the manager's house and just a little bit to the west. That's used for reunion gatherings, that kind of thing. Actually, I believe it was probably the old chapel for the YMCA times. What we're looking at there is installing a steel roof on top of that, just another one in a series of what we've been doing over the last 10 years. We do have an estimated cost on that of $7,500. That covers the cost of what we know about, removal of two layers of shingles, installing the steel on it. Anything over and above that would be if we have some, rotten wood underneath the shingles that's existing, then they would just charge us for labor and material.
And this is a budgeted item.
This is a budgeted item.
Okay?
Just for clarification on that, Milo, I want to make sure we got the amount right. So $7,653.07 is what we
Yes.
have in the...
Make a motion to
We have
approve.
a motion by Hatton,
Second.
second by Waterman. Any more discussion? And again, that's it just helps us preserve some of those outbuildings that are out at the park, so we appreciate those efforts.
Ongoing maintenance.
Ongoing maintenance is exactly what that is. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Milo, before you take off, I've had an opportunity to stop out at the park a couple of different times this week to look at the progress on the house. And if you haven't been out there, I would invite folks to go out there. They've got the one wall removed, and they're moving the office out of where it was to the game room. Isn't that what that was
Correct.
called?
Yep.
And I got the tour and the wish list and all of those things. So how's it going out there?
It's been a little bit overwhelming, we got in just a little bit deeper than what I anticipated, is maybe the best way to put it, but it's coming along quite well. We do have, the computer system, has been moved out to the new office. We have new doors put on there for security wise, and, so it's progressing. We do have our first customers coming in this weekend, and we hope to be somewhat ready for them. At least we can check them in.
How are reservations going so far?
Oh, very well. We're actually, I don't have a percentage, but we're further, we have more money in the bank this year than we did last year at this time. I'll just put it that way.
We like that. That's good.
I was out there Friday as well, and I guess I would just like to thank Milo and Carol for all the work that you guys have put into that to try to get it
We
back.
probably had a little lesson learned there. Had we known what we were going to run into, we might have planned some things a little differently, but it is what it is. So
I try and drive through the park at least once a day during the evening hours. And you guys were out there late last night still doing work. There was a lot of lights on in the buildings. I didn't stop.
Yep.
I didn't want to bother you, but
typically we're hanging around there till 10:30, 11 o'clock.
second what Brenda said, so thanks for your work on that.
Ooh, rolls
Uh-oh.
next
We
week.
got roll. We got roll.
I think somebody left their phone in this other chair.
Nice try.
We did dodge a bullet this week, and I know I was out there on Sunday, and as that wind switched and was blowing to the out of the south, like everybody knows, everybody at the lake dodged a bullet. I was starting to head towards the North Shore, and I stood right down there on the shore, and it was all starting to build up, but it was kind of crystallizing as it was building up, and it was really good to see Sunday night and Monday morning that the lake was open. So the Lord looked out for us there, and a lot of other people out at the lake, so that was good. We appreciate that, and it turned out good.
Mother Nature has a lot of experience in
Yes, it does.
taking that ice off the lake.
Yes, it does. But the lake is really, really full. It's really full. That's good too. All right. Anything else for Milo?
Thanks, Milo.
I do have. This is not an original from my standpoint, but I've been attending some meetings in developing Lake and Pesca, Milo, and we talked about some things and how we could enhance the park and make it more useful. And someone, I don't think they were addressing us individually, but I kind of picked up on it. You know, I've had 2 or 3 people actually stop me and tell me how much they really appreciate the bike trail through Memorial Park. They say it's the most delightful stretch on the bike trail. They got to ride down through the trees and through the park. They said it's wonderful. And I had this brainstorm. Maybe we should think about renting bikes as part of the Memorial Park opportunity. And then I figured, well, where are these bikes coming from? But doesn't the prison rebuild bikes yet? Don't we have a source of bikes there too? You know, and you know, just you gotta have, when you're driving through the park, you gotta have these wonderful ideas. You know.
Don't you guys
I will agree that the bike trail is a wonderful addition to the park.
We do.
You know, I can't say enough great things about it, other than the fact that it was donated.
Yeah.
And they're working on that also.
Yes, that's part of the plan, is to finish up. But did you see the price tag on the rest of it?
I did.
$2+ million.
Get your attention, doesn't it?
It does get your attention, that's right. People wonder where we spend their money.
I think we could rent segways and horses.
Segways,
and
yeah.
We can do all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
They do have an app for that. And they do have an app for that, and you can get a reading device put on the bike.
Sure.
So you can read the device.
Charged by the mile?
It puts it on your credit card. You can ride for a half hour or an hour, and you can just leave it any place where you're done.
Milo, did you leave already? He's stuck at the back door.
He's not sticking around.
But these are, I think there's all kinds of opportunities out there. All right, let's go on to number 12. And Sarah agreed to stay. This is a discussion with Linda. Austin and I visited with her a couple times on the phone this past week in regard to Feeding South Dakota program. Linda, are you here? Is Linda here? Linda?
No,
Once, twice, 3 times, Linda. Sarah. Then we'll call on Sarah. In visiting with Linda, I'm not absolutely certain what her request was. I tried to pin her down, and she thinks that we need a more presence of South Dakota, Feeding South Dakota in Watertown. Sarah did some reaching out for us, and that being said, we find that Feeding South Dakota has a presence in Watertown already.
Take it out of presentation mode and put it back in.
And basically what we want to do is identify the people that are working with Feeding South Dakota, and then Sarah's going to do that for us. And there's in your packet, there's also a page that I think is probably what we're going to see on the board. If we can ever, technology is wonderful when it works, isn't it? There we go. Thank you. Okay, Sarah, go ahead.
All right, and I might blindly call on Pastor Sarah here too, because she's part of that, if you're okay with that? Okay.
And who is that, please?
It's Pastor Sarah with First United. They also help with Feeding South Dakota, so she can...
I'm Robert Schultz. I help with it. Can I come?
You bet you can come on up. Is there anybody else that would like to come up?
Anybody that likes to eat.
Now remember, you're being streamed live, so check your air. Make sure it's...
The program that Charlie, you're talking about, is called Bike Share. I've got to use some of those. They're pretty good. No, you go ahead. I will. only maybe every couple years or every once a year, I will reach out to Matt, the director of Feeding South Dakota, just to see how things are at. And so I did follow up with a call with him and Diane, who's our representative for this area, and just, you know, kind of asked, and they really felt that Cottington County is well covered. I don't know the request, or maybe there's something that we're missing, but these are some of the things, areas that Feeding South Dakota, they partner in Cottington County, and they have the Salvation Army. You can correct me if they're wrong. They said that they're the biggest partner. They do the senior boxes, the food pantry. Feeding South Dakota is the sponsor of the Hy-Vee and the Walmart food pickup programs, and they do the commodity food boxes. They serve over 200 families per month. In addition to that, and I'll just let Sarah talk about the pack, and you guys do the pack, right? Am I getting that, or? Okay, so I'll let her talk a little bit about that and the First United Methodist Church and what you guys do. So,
will you introduce yourself so the press and the people in the audience will know who we have here?
Yeah, I'm Pastor Sarah Nelson. I'm the pastor at First United Methodist Church across the street, and we were very involved in the development of the PAC program, but the PAC program is now an independent community program, and so, but I do know that they partner with Feeding South Dakota and receive some of their food product through Feeding South Dakota, and yes, so right now they are sending out around 600 food sacks every weekend to children throughout Cottington County, both at public and private institutions. Right, and they've extended to the summer. They have a program called A Place at the Table that they partnership with, that the church started as well. And so those food sacks go all the way through the school year and all the way through the summer as well. And then our church has become involved kind of with a next program, a third program called the Food Giveaways. And so Feeding South Dakota brings up a truck of thousands of pounds of food about on a quarterly basis, and we distribute that food to individuals and families who need it within our community. And so the idea behind it is that people can come if it's a need for them or a need for someone they know. They don't have to give their name. All we ask is how many folks that they're trying to serve, how many folks are within their family, and where they're from, so that we have an idea whether they're from Hamlin County or Cottington County. But we don't turn anyone away, and we give the food away until the food is gone. We've already done 6 food giveaways. We started, our first was in August of 2016. Then we did another one in November of 2016. We did 3 last year, one in May, one in August, one in November. We did one earlier this year in February, and we have our next one scheduled in a couple weeks at the end of May. And typically when we do that, we are able to serve around 700 to 800 people. And so the church purchases the food through Feeding South Dakota, and then the church distributes it. And most recently, we've been distributing it out of the National Guard Readiness Center. So.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Any questions? I guess I was contacted.
Who are you?
I'm Robert Schultz.
Thank you, Robert.
I was on the leadership team when Sarah come to the church leadership team to present this. She was asked by Feeding South Dakota if we'd put the program on here. Sarah came to the leadership team, and of course the leadership team jumped on it right away and said, yes, we'll do that. Our plan is, and last year we only done 3, but our plan is to do 4 here. And time before last, we gave away 14,000 pounds of food in 2 hours. So it's a great program. If you ever want to put tears in your eyes or anything, come out and see the people that actually need food. And it just, when we first had the first one, I think Sarah and I were both crying, and it takes a lot for me to cry, but just, it's an amazing program. 23rd of May, we're having another one at the Readiness Center, and we get it on Facebook, out on the radio, so we reach out to everybody. And we don't discriminate. You just come sign your name, put it on where you're from.
Is that May 23rd that you're having your next one?
Okay, any questions for these
And
folks?
from my contact, I was contacted originally by Feeding South Dakota on who this lady was, and they didn't know her. I didn't know her. I called here, and nobody knew her here, so
Yeah.
we're just here to represent Feeding South Dakota and our church.
And I kind of get the feeling that it probably, like myself, probably didn't understand all of the ins in Watertown that we have with Feeding South Dakota. And we don't want to take anything away from any of them that are doing these wonderful things for our community, and we want that to continue. So we appreciate what you do and just give you the best going forward. I am very familiar with the PAC program. My daughter, Mrs. Bollinger, is on the board. That's my daughter, and my daughter-in-law is the treasurer, Rachel Johnson. So I get plenty of push to support PAC. So whenever I'm in a situation where I have to make recommendation for a donation or something like that, I always, and I've helped PAC. I've helped PAC, whatever that's called, you know.
Keep doing it.
Yeah, we do that quite often through the retired teachers group.
It takes tons of volunteers.
Takes a lot of help to do that.
I was trying to find it. They're having a drive for the summer PAC program. Is that one of these days this week?
Yeah.
Is it tomorrow? I can't remember. I know it's one of these days this week. It's at KWAT. I was trying to look on there.
So if someone is interested in volunteering, who do they contact or where do they need to go?
For the food giveaways, they would contact First United Methodist Church.
Okay, so contact First United Methodist Church.
Good question. And if anyone wishes to help PAC, like I did, it's usually groups of people that get together, because it takes, I think we have like at least 14 or 15 people at a minimum.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, you can't eat one apple and put one in a bag. Can't eat that many apples, so you gotta keep going. It's a process that you gotta go. But everybody should do it one time, at least get involved in it at least one time, because when you see the volume of food that goes out to these children in our community, you think, wow, you know, it's eye-opening, that's for sure.
Yes. Like Myron said, once you do it, you'll want to do it again.
Yep.
You see what's going on.
So do you know when the next packing session is going to be?
Well, you would need to call the volunteer coordinator with PAC.
Okay.
And you can call the church and we can get you in touch with them.
Okay.
Because generally we have such a supportive community that those packing sessions fill up months in advance.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
But once in a while they're short, one or two people, and so if you get on the list, they'll plug you in.
Perfect.
I've
Sounds
helped
good.
with that as well a couple of times, and it is quite a process. And
Yep.
move a lot in a short period of time.
It's a very, very good program, and we appreciate everything that you folks are doing. Keep up the very
Absolutely.
good work.
Thank you.
Sarah, you want to add anything to that?
I just want to make sure we highlight, in addition, that they have a partnership with Human Service Agency. Also, the other programs that we have in Cottington County, there's Monday night banquets, there's about 125 people. Do you guys still do the Tuesday morning breakfast? First United has Tuesday morning breakfast, Thursdays at Meals at Access Ministries, and Salvation Army does lunch. So, if someone has a concern or isn't getting their need met, I would say just contact one of these groups or myself, and we'll try to get them that need that they need. I think Cottington County has been a very generous community when it comes to food. I think it's very well covered. So, and I thank these guys for the work that they do. It's a blessing to many.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your work.
Appreciate the information. So now, before we come to our Tuesday morning meetings, we can go across the street and have breakfast. And that's because you may end up
we should all get together
eggs or something too. All right, let's go on to number 13 on the agenda, and that's action to approve an abatement application, and that.
There was not any in your packet. This one came in after I sent the packets out, but it's a pretty simple abatement. It's the applicant is Kilrad Incorporated. They own a 1975 mobile home. which was destroyed by fire on March 9th, 2017, and therefore qualifies for a 10-month abatement of taxes. The total taxes on the mobile home were $42.84. The abatement would be $35.63.
We have motion by Hatton, second by Van Duzen.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Number 14 then is action to approve claims for payment. Do we have any?
Nothing for 14 or 15.
We like that. Thank you. Let's go on to number 16, action to approve personnel changes, and we have some of those.
And a couple more came in after I sent the packets out. The first one would be, we have a new deputy sheriff starting today, Mike Morgan, who is replacing a deputy who resigned last month. He will start at step 3, $22.17 an hour. Second one is our 24/7 coordinator, Lori Mills. She's due her anniversary step increase to step 12, $22.76 an hour. Jeff Schnackenberg is park maintenance, and he was previously approved, but the wrong rate of pay was applied. He was misidentified as a custodian instead of a maintenance position, so he should be at step 1 maintenance, $14.97 an hour. Sarah Tesh is a clerk in the Director of Equalization office. She's due her anniversary step increase to step 5, $16.88 an hour. Diane Merchant is the office coordinator in the Director of Equalization office. She's due an anniversary step increase to step 12, $21.09 an hour.
You have heard the explanation. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Van Duzen, second by Gable. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Travel requests, we have a bunch of them.
First one I have is for the correctional officer in the detention center to attend a drug court meeting in Mitchell on May 9th and May 11th. I have a request from the state's attorney's office for the state's attorney to attend this same meeting, and they will be traveling together. The final two requests are for deputy state's attorneys to attend the state's attorneys conference May 3rd and 4th.
You've heard the explanation. A motion by Hatton, second by Gable. Any discussion?
Cindy, we don't have an employee travel request for the sheriff's office for the training?
Correctional officer.
Correctional officer?
Correctional officer, but not the sheriff's office.
That's what I'm talking about. We don't have the.
Oh, no,
travel
you did not
request.
get it. It came in after I sent your packets out. It is the same drug court meeting, drug court tune-up and training meeting that our state's attorney plans to attend.
All right, good question. Any more? Any other discussion? Anything else? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Let's go on to 18, mature business. Do you have any, Lee?
Just on the sprinkler system advertisement for bids, today is the pre-bid meeting this afternoon at 1 o'clock in this room. So we'll see. We sent that out by email, sent out an ad for bid to as many potential contractors to go to by email and advertised in a couple of papers. So we'll see. And then the bids are due to be turned in and open 2 weeks after that, and that is on May 15th, I want to say. Is that?
Yes.
So.
Will that be a separate meeting? Will it be done during our?
During our regular meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen at the pre-bid meeting?
It's basically we'll have Milo and the fire inspector here just to explain the project, let them see the spaces if they'd like to. So that would be.
And that's in reference to the remodel.
It's a sprinkler system. It's a sprinkler system for the basement and the first floor, and that came about as a result of the remodel and having to talk about the different code issues and particularly fire protection. And so the fire inspector, from the fire department, said that we really should take care of this because there's no sprinklers at all in this building right now. And then eventually, they also recommended that we sprinkle the whole building, and that to do that, there's an alternate bid in the option for an alternate in the advertisement for bids. So if that comes in at a good price, we might want to consider going ahead and doing the whole thing or planning it for a future year. So. But it needs to be coordinated with the remodel, but it's a separate project, so it's being bid as a separate project.
Any other old business? Anything else?
Mr. Chair, would this be the time to address, I want to put a bow on discussion that was earlier this meeting about the moratorium itself and that question. I know that this board, this group...
You got the floor. Why don't you come on up so everybody, and grab the mic so everyone can hear your explanation.
I think, Luke Muller here, I think, some people had left as well, and some of them wondered what was going on. Based on the information that you had read from the state's attorney, the way that I understand that, the way that I understood that would be you really had three options today with that in front of you. One would have been just an outright, basically a no on it at this point. One would have been to have a motion to publish a notice on having a moratorium hearing, which would have happened after you'd have your ordinance hearing next week. And then the third option, which is the one that I'm implying that you had taken, was that that's something that you can address more fully during the public hearing on Ordinance 68 at the next meeting, and if someone so chose, they could possibly consider a substitute motion, which then would have to be published notice, but at least then your hands wouldn't be tied. And so I guess I'm taking it that it was your intent that you'll hear more comment on that sort of idea, whether or not you'd have a moratorium or other changes at the public hearing, and I just want to make sure that that's what your intent was at this point. And then with that, the other thing that I would point out is that the individuals had those copies for the board, and I guess from my standpoint, that's something that would probably be a good idea to have ahead of the public hearing. If they've got those copies, it might not be a bad idea to have those for them to have during or ahead of the public hearing, maybe even dropping them off today. Obviously, that's your call, but
in your reference to the handouts that were presented.
Yeah.
And if you wish to leave them, then we can pick them up.
Okay, so I just want to make that point.
All right.
That's all. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear on that.
I have a question about that, then a follow-up question. Don't be gone from my head. The moratorium, then you're assuming is connected to Ordinance 68. Our request for moratorium is connected to Ordinance 65, but you're connecting it to Ordinance 68 and the revision that you're trying to do to Ordinance 65. You see the distinction there? It seems like you're tying that to 68.
Well, the point I guess that I was making is that you could discuss a moratorium on wind towers during that discussion on Ordinance 68. It wouldn't necessarily have to be in reference to allowing Ordinance 68 to happen. It would be something that could go on. But again, that's what I was getting at, is I just wanted to be clear that that was the intent, that you would allow some of that discussion at that hearing. Is I guess the point. So the point is, as you said, you're talking about a moratorium on any wind towers, and I think what the board was getting at is that they felt like, well, the state's attorney was discussing the idea of having hands tied, talking about certain things with wind towers. So that was why I wanted to verify if the intent was to allow that discussion to happen further at the public hearing that day.
Is that something that we can legally do when we're having the hearing, is on a whole separate issue?
It would be akin to an amendment. You can certainly discuss it, but you would have to have a public hearing specifically on that item. And so the point is, do you publish a notice, whether you publish a notice afterwards, and at this point you really can't. There are portions that you can and can't discuss, and so that's where I think where it was going was that you would discuss it at that point, but the request was with regards to just any towers, period, whether it's 68, 65, 15, 30, whichever was out there before.
Go ahead, Lee.
No, just to clarify, I think what Luke's telling us and what Commissioner Hanton was saying. So whether or not, if we have, say, a proposed amendment on Ordinance 68 or, say, a substitute motion about a moratorium, I mean, that's going to go put everything back through a cycle of, going to the Planning Commission and public hearings and all that kind of stuff.
It wouldn't necessarily have to go back to the Planning Commission. It would be something that you could republish a notice and handle at this board.
Okay.
Because before it could be decided, it would have it would just be a motion to advertise for a public hearing on it.
So,
It'd be a motion to advertise for, yes, that's exactly right, that's what the motion would be.
that'd be a substitute.
Yes, and so whether you, no matter when you did it, that hearing would occur after next week.
Yeah.
Did that
One
answer
more
your
question,
question?
Luke.
Yeah.
Today was the first reading of ordinance 68. Is that why we could not discuss the moratorium? We had to refer to 65 today? We couldn't make any reference to 68?
Because there is an ordinance before us that we didn't have a notice public hearing for today on that ordinance itself. And so that was where we ran into issues in the past, and we don't want to go down that road again.
No, I was just looking for clarification.
That is why. That is why.
Okay, any more questions? Luke is up here. Anybody have anything else for Luke? Did that answer your question?
I still don't see the distinction, but that's just,
Okay.
we'll discuss that now.
All right, thank you, Luke. Any other old business?
Thanks, Luke.
Yes.
Just to go back to the remodel, yesterday was a pre-construction meeting with the contractor Mills Construction, and the architect was here, so it was an opportunity for the contractor and his subcontractors to walk through the spaces again and make sure they had all the details. If people want to take a look, Mills Construction, they have their timeline, so their construction is due to get started about May 7th. So just for everybody's information, so, or maybe 6th or 7th. So if you want to, I have a few extra copies of Commissioner's Monitor if people want to take a look at it, and the agenda we used. So just FYI.
Yep, I attended that meeting also, so.
That's a week from yesterday, so that's pretty, right around the corner. Thank you, Lee. All right, any other old business?
And it was mentioned during that, I should say, they are going to be sensitive to the, during the day when folks are trying to conduct business, so they are working around.
There's going to be some loud noises when the demolition parts of the, particularly where the nurse's office is now, because there's some walls to be removed, so that's going to be a bit noisy.
That's pretty much under the courtroom, too.
Yeah, so they have to coordinate that. I mean, that's
All right. Any other old business? Let's go on to new business then. Any new business to bring forward today? Any new business? Any new business?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll bring your reports next week. I had it in my other bag, but I did attend the 911 meeting, so I'll bring that report so you folks can take a peek.
All right, let's go to the open then.
I have several things that there could be a quorum of commissioners at. First and foremost, today is the governor luncheon at LATI at 11:30. The pre-bid meeting, I suppose there could be a quorum of us here for that as well. Tomorrow there is the Republican meeting at noon. Lincoln Day dinner, of course, is Thursday night. We'll all be in attendance at that. And I believe that is all I have till next Tuesday, unless someone else has something.
Anything else for the open? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board at this time in reference to anything that they would have during the open here? Anyone? Seeing none, then let's go on. I have two requests for executive session, one from Terry Satterley, the HR, in reference to a personnel issue and contract, and then one from Troy. Another one would be in reference to personnel.
Personnel, yep.
So
Move to go into executive
I
session.
have a motion by Hatton to move to executive session, a second by Waterman. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and I would not expect there would be any action at the end of the executive session for the press. All right? Thank you, folks, for being here. Have a good day. Again, happy May Day.